won't bore you with all the details of this because it's not really about guitar making, but I'm here in the garage that will be properly called the Monster Guitars Workshop when it is ready. And I'm planning, I suppose it's renovation. It's not much of a renovation, but I'm going to line these walls and insulate them so that I can better control the temperature and so that I don't make quite so much noise. Well, from the outside, it'll be just as noisy on the inside. I'll be nicer to my neighbors and they will like me more, hopefully. So yeah, I'm pretending to be a draftsman at the moment. My plywood has arrived. It's nice plywood too. It's grade BD. So it's B on one face, this face, just one grade short of A. Really nice and smooth, very few defects. And D on the other side, so kind of ugly, but no one cares because it's going to be up against the wall. The wall that I'm now insulating. I was going to say pro tip, but I'm not a pro at building or making guitars at this point. Tip when you're building. This garage is elevated off the ground on a concrete slab, but it's raining pretty hard out there and some water can get in under the door every now and then, and that's why when you're lining a wall you leave a small gap under the panel, especially plasterboard, but plywood or anything as well, and that's because the water can touch the bottom of the panel and soak into it. It's known as wicking, when water moves up the panel as a result of soaking into it, and that can cause warping and damage and all sorts of things, and you don't want that, especially plasterboard. That would get soggy and nasty. Also in Wellington we get earthquakes, but even if you don't, if you put a panel on a wall with a small gap under it, you're giving yourself a bit of grace in case there is something that causes a small amount of movement. There is room to move and less potential for damage. Alright, on with the show. I have finished insulating and lining, and I'm going to leave a blank space there just because. It looks simple in principle, but it's actually a bit involved and a bit complicated, but it's done. It's still a little messy because I've got some non-guitar related projects going on, like that dining table there covered in things, which is not going to be here for long. I'm going to restore that and get it out of here. But anyway, I'm making some progress. I'm starting to hook some tools up. I'm starting to hang some tools on hooks. But one thing I'm going to do, and I don't have very many chisels and gouges, but they are things that will be useful for mostly for shaping bodies. I've got a couple of others too, but they're really not the right sort of thing. Those are for wood turning on a lathe, which it's very nice looking, but I'm not going to get into that. Only so many things you can do in one lifetime. And, well, some of these have holes, some don't. At some point I'll probably I'll certainly replace those ones. They're not in great condition and they're not wonderful quality. At some point I'll get a fuller, not the brand fuller, but a fuller, larger set of gouges and chisels, and I'll want to hang them. They might not have holes in them when I get them, and I don't want to drill holes in them. And some of these, as I may have mentioned, don't have holes. So I'm going to make a rack for them. And I've got a decent bench up there, which will be the backdrop in some videos. And on the top of that bench is a good surface on which to make a rack. You'll see what I'm getting at shortly. I've got a nice piece of beech here. I figured that would make a nice rack. It was tongue and groove. It's no longer tongue and groove because I've removed the groove, and that will be the front of the rack. So I'm just going to take some measurements. Maybe I'll do half of them small, half of them larger. And, wow, you'll see how it looks. I'm over at the drill press now with that piece of beech that I'm going to make into a rack. And how many holes am I making? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Lucky 13, which is a lot more than I currently have in terms of chisels and gouges, but I will, at some point be upgrading my collection. Most sets have 12 in them that I've seen, so I'll have one spare. Anyway, I'm starting with holes made by a 15mm Forstner, and that's for the smallest chisels and gouges, which don't need to slide in They can just drop straight and the blades will fit into those holes. They'll hang by their handles. For the remainder, I'm going to make a hole with this 20mm Forstner bit, and then using a smaller drill bit I will make a slot to slide the blade of the chisels into, and then I'll tidy that slot up with files. I think we're done. It never needed to be a work of art, it just needed to be functional. I have wiped it down with some boiled linseed oil. But yeah, I think that'll do. Let's just screw this onto the bench. There it is attached. Yeah, perfectly functional. Enough room for considerably more tools than I have at the moment, which is good. Now I can just focus on getting the rest of this place tidied up. One piece of furniture at a time, I'm restoring them and getting them out of here. I have a friend who's going to come and pick that up and give me a few dollars for it. This now looks a bit different. I've sanded down the top. I've got some repairs and some restoration to do on that, and then I can get that out of here. I'm going to be using that on our rear covered deck as a handy table for dining when friends visit. Yeah, it's taking shape. I haven't quite finished tidying up and setting up the workshop, but this is the last video in the workshop renovation and setup video. There's lots of stuff still sitting everywhere. I need to clean that piece of furniture up and do something with it, but I've gotten all the other furniture out of here. That table is going to probably disappear sometime in the near future because I won't really have room for it, and it's partly because of what's sitting on the table. I'm gonna turn this recycled wood into a nice luthier woodwork bench. I have some guitar projects to return to, but I won't until I've made my bench. So I'll end this video now, and the next time you see the Monster Guitars workshop will be when I am making the bench.